Okay, since the last time I filmed anything, I did some stuff and I undid some stuff. And then I redid some stuff. The main thing that I wanted to get done initially, and how I ended the last video, was I wanted to get this grill area defined so that I had a target to go to and I could establish all my lines and so forth. Well, I wanted to stick with completing the grill surround, and I had to stop there because I had to establish the lines from the top of the fender all the way down here in order to get the arc to finish out the upper bumper area and make it look like it flowed in with the fenders. I went ahead and I just made this really quick mock-up fender so that I could get some sense of how the fender would arc off as it relates to the hood. I had to quick put this fender back together, the original Challenger fender. I'd cut it apart because I'm going to use the portion of the top of the fender as a guide to how everything should be established. Well, it was pretty floppy without the side, so I pop riveted it back together so that I could bolt it at the bottom. And this area that goes in reverse and blends in with the door. No need to remake that just to impress everybody. That's kind of stupid, extra work for nothing. But you can see where this panel extended. It gave me an idea as to how far out I needed to be and what the arc of the fender needed to be. And here's the top of the Challenger fender. And if you look on this side here, you could see, it kind of flattens out, goes out a little further. So the first thing I did was I had to establish some plates for the hood hinges to bolt to. So everything's in reverse. In order for me to finish that up there, I have to come back over here. First, I made some plates. Well, I proceeded to start making the frame, but I ended up having to take these plates and cut them back out because I wanted to use this piece that I salvaged from the underside of the original Challenger hood. This seals off the inner hood there's a rubber seal right under here that goes along this whole edge here, and this fits it very nicely. Again, no need to remake this panel. This also gives me a guide for my upper sheet metal on the hood to blend into the windshield area very nicely. It's already established, it's already done. The next thing I had to do was establish an arc side to side, and again I had to put the fender on to pick the sides of the tops of the fenders up so they'd be in the right angle, so that I could get an idea as to how it would flow into the hood. Over here you can see what I did here was I put a piece of 1/8 inch aluminum between this subframe that I'm making for the underside of the hood and then a piece of the sheet metal I'll be using for the hood, and then this tab flushes it out so that where this is will give me some space between the inner frame and the outer skin where I can put some sound deadening foam that you usually see between the hood reinforcement on the bottom side of a hood or on a deck lid to keep it from rattling. And also they have different rates of expansion and contraction, so you don't want to weld this frame to the hood because in the sunlight any seams or anything you've done to that, it'll show up, and a little buckling will go on. So initially I established the arc that I wanted with this piece across, doing the arc of course in 2 halves, and establishing this arc to the center and then matching it symmetrically and making sure there's no housetop or point or butt cheek, so to speak, in the middle, so that it flowed straight across. So once I've got that, I repeated this arc and put another piece over here as a center support. Once that was established, I started to connect the dots and bring pieces over and then extend them out. Now this will be the actual front edge of the hood, which I'll cut back, and I'll be putting a sheet metal flange around here so that I can fold the sheet metal over on the very edge of the hood. But I had to establish something. So for right now, these all come out to where the hood will end, and then the front bumper the grill surround area will come out beyond here, about 4.5 inches on the top side. So now that I have all of this established, I can come forward here and get this started, because I have some sense of where these angles are and how this is all going to flow in, and how this has got to kind of blend out in order for that to not look too goofy. So, like I said, I decided I needed to use this piece, so I'll have to create some sort of a flange in here. Lots of boring stuff to connect. This is aluminum, so I'll have something that I can rivet to. I'll put a steel flange in here. I'll bend it in an L shape, and then make a flange that I can attach that with. But anyway, that's about where it is right now. And like I said, lots of little boring things. I have things like these little rubber bumpers that I put back in that the hood has to stop down on, and I'll be building something down here that the hood will rest on. These are adjustable, you'll be able to move the hood up and down for a little bit of adjustment. I'll have to establish a latch in here, make sure the cable runs all the way out and reaches to wherever I decide to put the latch. Hopefully I can put it as far forward as possible to keep the hood buckled right there. If not, I'll just move it back to the stock position, which that should be back on the original area, right in this area right here. But that's what it is right now. Just kind of inchworming along and trying to connect the dots. And one of the ways that I establish some of the arcs is a pretty simple method of taking and bending a 90 degree in a piece of sheet metal, and then using a simple tool that you've probably seen before, maybe you haven't seen it. These are called trickers and stretchers. They're for sheet metal work, and if you bend something on a 90 degree like this and you put it in the jaws, depending on what you want to do, and this is a stretcher, and it does exactly what it says it'll do. If you press down on this lever over here, these jaws come down, they grip the metal, and they push it apart. As you can see, I'm doing it in extreme here so you can see what has happened. It pushes the metal apart like that. And you can see how this can come in handy for making door jambs, fixing window beds, and things like that. On the opposite side, we have the shrinker. This is a pretty cheap tool. I think they're like $150 a piece or something like that. You can get them from Eastwood. You can get them from a number of places online. But shrinkers and stretchers, sheet metals. This is the most simple kind that you can get. But this will actually move the metal in the opposite direction. If you push down on this lever, on this device, you can see it pulls the metal together. You could pretty much make, all kinds of serpentine crazy shapes if you need to. But what I did with this is I used it to create the arcs that I needed, so I could lay them over top from point to point, make sure that I got what I want. And then I took 1.5 inch by, take it out, 1/2 inch by the 049 wall, half by 1.5, and I got this little device here, which is just 2 pipes welded to a plate, bolted to the bench, and hopefully the wheels are locked on the bench, and you just go ahead and pull on that a little bit. Or if you got a short length like this, you can just hit it with a hammer over here, and that you can gently shape it a little at a time, and you'll get you a nice arc like that. And so there's a couple of tricks that I did to get what I got. And so I'm still waiting for my wheels. They said they were going to ship out the rear wheels because they had them in stock. That was a month ago. Called the guy. They're still sitting on the floor. As usual, it's always the same. People say they're going to do things for no reason at all, and then they don't do them. Trying to impress you, I guess. But hopefully, end of July, I'll have all the wheels on the car so I can really get an idea how far out the sides and the fenders and everything have to be. But in the meantime, I've got plenty to do. This whole frontal area is really going to take me a bit of time. I'll probably, I'd like to do as big a piece on the hood as possible, but it's too awkward to try to work by myself and make a hood this size. So more than likely I'll break it into pieces. I'll probably do these. They're very complex because they have a reverse shape to them, so they'll take a ton of work. So it's better to just make two separate pieces here. If I can manage it, I'll try to make this in one piece. If not, I'll break it into two pieces here also. But there's a lot of detail that has to go on in the hood also because it's going to be like a Roadrunner hood. So be interesting. It'll be a fun challenge, that's for sure. Almost tripped and fell. Good times. All right.